are we going to do today? Well, today, and I don't have very many of these on my channel, but today's a beer day. My keg's empty and the wife's getting a little upset about that. So I need to brew a beer. All right, and what beer we got today is a nut brown ale, okay? And what I did is I got this all grain beer kit from Northern Brewer. I've got stuff from them store and their kit's been great. So what do we got in the kit, okay? So of course we got the recipe here. First thing we got is we got some, what kind of hops are these? These are some U.S. Fugal hops, 1 ounce. I got some SO4 yeast. I got some priming sugar and crushed grains. Already crushed for me, so I don't have to do that. What grains are we talking about? We got 7.5 pounds of English Morris Otter Ale. Blah. 7.5 pounds of English Morris Otter. We got a 1/4 pound of English chocolate malt, a 1/4 pound of Barrique caramel malt, 120, a 1/4 pound of Belgian wheat biscuit, and some Barrique special roast, 1/4 pound of that too. All right. So this is a very simple recipe. I've made this one before, and it's very delicious. So my hat's off to Northern Brewer for this. They did not give it to me or anything like that. I just ordered it online because it is very easy to order online. All right, let me get this out of the way. All right. Well, let's get started making this beer. All right. I started in the beer world before I started distilling. Hey, I do like beer, you know. So this is super easy. I got me a brew pot down here. I'm going to heat up some water. All right, but first thing, I do have a false bottom to put in my mash tun here. If I can get it down in there. All right, I got my false bottom in there. Let me just stick that in there. Okay, so let me get some water heating up. And what we want to do is, I want it up to about 160 degrees, because by the time I add the grain in, it's going to cool down. And ultimate temperature for mashing in our grain is about 154, according to the recipe here. Okay, so let me get some water heating up and then I'll be back. Water in my brew pot, it's 160 degrees. So I want to add some to my mash tun here. Let me take this lid off. Boy, I'm glad I got my pump fixed, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and add over a few gallons of 160 degree water. I do have a false bottom in here. So what I want to do is I'm going to get up and then we'll get ready to mix in these grains. It's been a while since I brewed a beer. I forgot how much fun it is. Well, yeah, like when you're making spirits, you got to make beer first, right? So I get this 10-gallon pot. There's 2 gallons in there. I'll probably put me 4 gallons in there and then get just for started. I know we'd add more. Okay, so that's right there is 4 gallons. All right, so I got my mash paddle here, got my grain here. It's already been crushed. All right, so what we want to do is we're going to add this grain in. But remember, not too fast because we don't want dough balls and stuff. Just like when you're making spirits. Oh, the smell is fantastic, as always. This has to be one of my favorite beers, Honey Nut Brown. And that, I'm sorry, just a nut brown. But a Honey Nut Brown is fantastic too. All right. Yeah, if it gets too thick, we could always add a little bit more water, but it's looking pretty good. All right. All right. Give that a good stir. It looks like oatmeal. Okay. There we go. Now, what we need to do is we need to double check our temperature. And we are at 147. 147, that is perfect, right? But even if we look at the directions here that Northern Brewers sent us. No, wait a minute, I'm wrong. We need to boost the temperature up a little bit. We want 154, I'm sorry. So let's go ahead and put a little bit more hot water in there. We give that a stir. And then what we're going to turn is our heat belt on. I like to try to get it close. And we are at 149. And we're looking at 154. All right, so let me get my heat belt going. And first I'm gonna pump a little more hot water in there. All right, let's see what we got now. And we have 149. And we want 154. All right. Okay, we should be about right there now. All right, 153. The heat belt will take us up to what we want. 153. All right, let me get this out of the way. We'll get a lid on this, and we're going to turn the heat belt on. Okay, so once this gets to 154, I'm going to set a timer for 1 hour. And we're going to let that starches convert for 1 hour. Okay? So, if you're an hour and 15 minutes, that's okay. Won't hurt it. Okay, so I'll see you back in an hour or so. Okay, so it's been an hour on these grains, so let's get this uncovered. Get that out of my way. All right, so what... Okay, so it's been an hour at 100 and... It's heavy. All right, so what we want to do is now it's time for sparge our grains. Now we got two options. You either can fly sparge, and what that means is you trickle water on the top as you drain it out the bottom, and it washes the sugars out. That works great. I've done it, but I am going to what they say batch sparge. What that means is I'm going to drain everything out into my brew pot, put more hot water back in here, and do it again until I collect, okay, let's see, about 6.5 gallons in my brew pot. Okay, all right. Let me move the camera down so you can see what I'm got going on over here. So it's time to sparge this out. Like I said, I got a false bottom in here, so that's gonna hold most of your grains back. Hey, of course you will get some. Look at that beautiful color. Beautiful color. So what we're gonna do is drain this out, and then we'll shut the valve, and then we'll put some hot water back in here, and we'll keep doing this. And once we collect our 6.5 gallons, because we want to end up with 5 gallons after the boil, and we will lose. We will lose some, so. All right, smells so good. This is just one fantastic beer. All right, okay, so it's time. We did our sparge. We got collected up 6.5 gallons roundabout. So now it's time to start the boil. What does the boil do? Well, the biggest thing is it helps us when we add our hops. It's going to get them hop oils out of that hops for flavor, plus sanitation. Now, you notice we didn't sanitize anything as of yet. Okay, there's a reason. Okay, that's where the difference between spirits and beer is. Now, after the boil, everything that touches that wort needs to be sanitized. The fermentation buckets, the spoons, and all that. But up until the boil, right, even when we go ready to, when we're done boiling, we'll put a wort chiller in there. We'll put the wort chiller in the boiling liquid to help sanitize it. So, that's when we're going to really worry about sanitation, is after anything that touches it after the boil. Okay, so let's get a fire under this pot, and we're going to get it up to boil, and then we'll do our hop addition, and it will boil for 1 hour. Okay. All right, we'll get that up. Okay, sorry about the noise, but see how it's foaming up right now? It's kind of like when you first start on your still. Once it starts to boil, you got to be really careful, because it'll boil over, and it makes one hell of a mess. Ask me how I know. So you really got to keep an eye on it at this point in the game. It's just starting to get ready to boil, see? So we want to be able to get ready to shut our heat off or down, and to keep stirring it to keep it from boiling over. And like I said before, you don't want that to happen. It's one hell of a mess. Okay, foam's going to rise and go down. You'll play with the heat until you can get it to where it's just boiling and it's not foaming up. That will go away. Once that goes away, that's when I'm going to put in my first hop addition. And this particular beer, I only get 1 ounce of Fugal hops, and it's for 1 hour, for 60 minutes. So we'll add that in. Oh, that smells so great. Okay, so let's let that go for an hour, and that's running about perfect. And I like to do it without a lid on, because remember we put in there 6.5 gallons of wort. Okay, the water's going to evaporate off. Okay, so what I put in my Fugal hops, and it's going to be an hour boil. Now, I like to boil without the lid on. Why? And the big reason is, remember we put 6.5 gallons of wort in that pot, and this is a 5-gallon batch. Okay, so what's going to happen is the water will evaporate off, and it should be down close to the 5-gallon mark, and that's going to raise our sugar level up because we're taking water away. The sugar's going to stay. You know, the grain is made. So if everything works out right, once we put it over into our fermentation bucket, if we go 5.5 gallons or a little bit more, even up to closer to 6, somewhere in that neighborhood is perfect, because you always lose some through the fermentation because of all the junk that's on the bottom. Okay, so she's going good. It's going to boil here for the next hour, and then we'll get ready to move to the next step. All right, I'm looking forward to the boil. It's got 10 more minutes left on the boil. So what I want to do now, this is my wort chiller. It's connected to the water hose, and it's going to run cool water through there when we're ready to cool it down, so we can go ahead and pitch yeast. But for right now, this is going to get put into that boiling liquid, and that will sanitize it. So you want to put that into your last 10 minutes of the boil, and that will sanitize that wort chiller. Okay? Alright, we'll be back. So our 10 minutes is up. I'm going to kill the heat, and I'm going to turn the water onto my wort chiller, and we're going to get this chilled down to below 90. Well, now I'm at about 80 degrees before I pitch my yeast. So anything now that touches this wort needs to be sanitized. Yeah, I got sanitizer in this thing. Get a little squirt, rinse it off. This is Sparge sand, so if it gets into the wort, this will not hurt it at all. They say don't fear the foam, because you'll see, like when I wash out my fermentation bucket with some, you'll see foam in there, but I'm not worried about it because it will not affect the flavor, will not hurt the beer at all. Yeah, you can't use rubber soap, of course, but Sparge sand is a great stuff. Alright, so let me get this cooled down and we'll get ready to move to the next step. Okay, so I'm cooled down below 90 degrees. And it's going to cool down a little bit more by the time I'm done. Okay, so we can take out the wort chiller. Alright, so what we're going to do is get ready to put everything in our fermentation bucket. Okay, so I got my fermentation bucket here. I got Sparge sand in there. I will make sure that everything is covered and coated and all that good stuff, and then I can get rid of that. Okay. And like I said, anything that touches the wort right now needs to be Sparge sand. This is a little contraption I made up to help get rid of some of the hops. So just get rid of some of them. And an ant. All right, put that on here. Oh, let me spray this. Okay. All right, let me bring. Okay, so all I gotta do is let that drain into my bucket. And this is going to do a couple different things. It's going to aerate it, which is important in the first step of this procedure. Drained into my fermentation bucket. Let's check what our numbers are. According to the instructions or this recipe, I should be looking somewhere around 1.044. So I hope I'm about that. All right, and the answer is one. I can't see. .43. I'm happy with that. Okay. 1.43. So 1.043. I'm sorry. Double check the temperature. 84 degrees. That's going to be perfect for the yeast. Ooh, need scissors. This is 04 yeast. We'll sprinkle it around on top. Okay. Next thing we want to do is we want to put a lid on that, start sanding it all up. Alright, and then what we're going to do is put an airlock in it. Yeah, I'll just put a little bit of there we go. You can put water in there. I just put a little star sand. Alright, let me put this in our fermentation room. So what's next? The next is we're going to let that ferment for a week, and then what we'll do is we'll transfer it over into a secondary fermenter. And mainly what you're trying to do is you're trying to clarify your beer then, because what you're going to do is siphon it off into the secondary, and then a lot of this stuff will drop, and then we can leave it in there 1 to 2 weeks or more in the secondary fermenter that lets the stuff drop out of the suspension, and we'll just get clear, okay? And then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so that's it for right now. I'll see you back in a week. Okay, it's time. It's been a week, and our beer has been fermenting. All right, so the next stage is we're going to transfer that beer over into our secondary carboy to help clarify the beer. Now, if you notice there's a lot of foam in here, that's not soap. That is what they call star sand. And that's going to sanitize the inside of this carboy just to make sure anything that touches the beer now, you need to be sanitized. So I got sanitizer in here. Yeah, and don't worry about that foam. They say don't worry about the foam because it don't hurt nothing anyway. I will use a siphon, and I will make sure that it's sanitizer in this. I will spray everything and sanitize that. It only takes a few minutes for it to do its job. Okay, so let me get set up, and then we're going to transfer the beer into here. Then it's going to sit for probably 2 weeks, and then that's going to help clarify the beer. Okay, so I'll be right back. Okay, I already loosened the lid up. So what we need to do is, it smells like good beer. All right, so I just want to sanitize everything. You can't use too much. Can't use too much of it. All right, I hope you can see that. All right, so what we want to do is we just want to sanitize a good, clean, clear beer off the top, and put it into our carboy, and then we're going to let it sit and clarify. Okay. Okay, so we got our beer transferred. Nice looking beer here. Don't worry about that foam. That's just from the star sand. It's perfectly fine. It does not affect anything. So now the next step, let's leave this sit for 2 weeks, and it's going to help clarify the beer. And because we got it off most of the junk, but it still will clarify a little bit. And then we will put this in a keg. Okay, so we'll see you then. Okay, so we're at the next step at our beer, and it's time to put it in the keg. I did take Star San, and I rinsed the keg out with Star San so it's nice and clean. And I also rinsed out the auto siphon some of the Star San out, and I also will spray everything. So it is time to siphon it over. All right, so let me get set up and we'll do that. As you see, we're siphoning it into the keg. It won't take long to do that. Okay. Alright, and then once we're done siphoning, we got two choices. Two choices of how we can carbonate this. Okay, one, we just put the lid in, put the kegerator, and jack up the pressure on the CO2 gas, and we'll force carbonate it. We can do that. Works very well. We also can use a priming sugar right in the keg and just leave it in the fermentation room here for a couple of weeks, and it will carbonate itself. And that's how I'm particularly going to do this one. And so that's your two choices how to carbonate a beer. Alright, so like I said, I'll let this finish siphon off into the keg, and or you could go at a bottling beer at this point, but I'm going to keg it. Alright.